My sister locked me in a basement knowing I was pregnant. After 3 years and $70,000 in treatments, the fall almost cost me my baby. And what I did next left her without a family. I'm 33 years old. I work as a corporate events coordinator, and after everything that happened with my sister, Courtney, I need to tell this story because she basically forced me to leave my hometown, my job, my family, everything. And the craziest part is that it all started on the happiest day of my life, when after 3 years of trying to get pregnant with IVF treatments, I finally saw those 2 lines on the pregnancy test. 3 years. Can you imagine? 3 years of injections, hormones, doctor appointments, hopes that crumbled month after month. My husband Samuel and I had spent over $70,000 on treatments. We had cried together more times than I can count. And when it finally worked, I swear I felt like my life finally made sense again. Samuel and I decided not to tell anyone immediately because, after so many disappointments, we were afraid something would go wrong. But when I got to 8 weeks and the doctor said everything looked perfect, that the baby was healthy and strong, we decided to tell my parents, Mark and Dorothy. We went to their house on a Sunday afternoon, one of those quiet afternoons where my mom always makes her famous lemon pie and my dad is watching golf in the living room. We told them we had important news, and when we showed them the ultrasound photo, my mom literally started crying. My dad, who's never very emotionally expressive, hugged us both and said it was the best gift we could have given them. We asked them not to tell anyone yet, that we wanted to wait until 12 weeks to announce it officially, and they promised to keep it secret. At that point, I was like at week 10, so just a little bit left to go. Now, to understand what came next, I need to tell you about my younger sister, Courtney. Courtney is 29 years old and has always been, let's say, the one who needs to be the center of attention. I don't know how to explain it without sounding bad, but since we were kids, if something good happened to me, she had to find a way to make it about her. Like when I graduated from college with honors, she announced that same day that she had gotten a new job, which turned out to be a lie. But that's another story. When Samuel proposed to me, she spent the whole celebration dinner talking about how she also wanted to get married soon and showing pictures of rings to her boyfriend at the time, Ethan. My parents always justified it saying she was insecure, that she needed validation, that we had to be patient with her. So anyway, 2 weeks after we told my parents about the pregnancy, my cousin Emily threw an engagement party at her house. Emily had just gotten engaged to her boyfriend of 5 years and was super excited. It was a small party, like 30 people, close family, and some friends. I went with Samuel, and honestly, I felt amazing. I was like 10 and a half weeks at that point and was already starting to get that second trimester energy they tell you about. Courtney was also there with Ethan. And throughout the whole night, I noticed she was looking at me weird. At one point, I went to the kitchen to help my mom with the appetizers, and we were talking quietly about the pregnancy, like whether I already had morning sickness, if I had started taking prenatal vitamins, normal stuff. We didn't realize that Courtney had come into the kitchen and had heard us. What happened next still seems surreal to me when I think about it. Courtney waited until my mom left the kitchen, and then she approached me with this super fake smile and said, "So you're pregnant. Congratulations." I froze, because no one else was supposed to know yet. I told her yes, that please don't say anything because we wanted to wait a bit longer to announce it. And she, literally, her face completely changed. She said, "Seriously, Melissa, seriously, you have to ruin Emily's day with your news." I told her I didn't understand what she was talking about, that I hadn't told anyone, that she had overheard a private conversation. But she started raising her voice, saying that I always had to be the perfect one, the one who has everything, and that now I wanted to steal Emily's moment. The thing got so weird that some guests started turning to look at us. Samuel came over and asked me what was wrong. Courtney then said out loud, so everyone could hear, that I was trying to make Emily's party about me by announcing I was pregnant. I felt like I was dying of embarrassment because everyone was looking at us, and Emily looked confused. I explained that I hadn't announced anything, that it was a private conversation that Courtney had accidentally overheard. My parents tried to calm the situation down by telling Courtney to relax, but she was out of control. She said that I was always the favorite, that I always got what I wanted, and that she was sick of it. And here's where everything went completely to hell. Courtney grabbed my arm, hard, and told me we needed to talk in private. I was so in shock that I followed her because I thought maybe she would calm down if we talked alone. She led me toward Emily's basement, which is like an unfinished basement where Emily keeps boxes and tools and stuff. We went down the stairs, and when we got to the bottom, I tried to talk to her. I told her I was sorry if she felt bad, but that I hadn't done anything wrong. She just looked at me with this expression I'd never seen on her, like full of hatred. And then, I swear to God, she ran toward the stairs, went up, and locked the basement door. I stood there like an idiot for a few seconds, not processing what had just happened. I knocked on the door and told her it wasn't funny, to let me out. Nothing. I yelled that I was pregnant, that she couldn't lock me in there. Complete silence. I started to panic because the basement was dark. There was only one light bulb hanging from the ceiling, and I started thinking about the baby. I looked for my phone and realized I had left it in my purse upstairs. Perfect. I tried kicking the door, but it was solid wood and the lock was on the other side. Like 10 minutes went by, maybe 15. I don't know exactly, but it felt like forever. I started looking for another way out. There was a small window at the top of one of the walls, one of those basement windows that are hardly ever used. I dragged a big cardboard box and put it under the window so I could reach it. I climbed onto the box, trying to be very careful because obviously I was pregnant, and the last thing I wanted was to fall. I managed to open the window a little bit and was trying to push it further when the box moved. Everything happened in slow motion. Like, I felt the box fold under my weight. I tried to grab onto something, but there was nothing, and I fell backward. I landed on my side, hard, against the concrete basement floor. The pain was immediate. Not exactly in my abdomen, but in my hip and back. I stayed there on the floor, crying, terrified, thinking about the baby. I started screaming for help with all my might. Finally, I don't know how long after, I heard running footsteps and the door opened. It was Samuel and my dad. Samuel came down the stairs 2 at a time, and when he saw me on the floor, he went pale. My dad also came down, and between the two of them, they helped me get up. I told them through sobs that I had fallen, that I needed to go to the hospital immediately. Samuel carried me to the car, literally, because I couldn't walk well from the pain in my hip. My mom came with us, and on the way to the hospital, she called my doctor to let him know we were coming. I couldn't stop crying, thinking I had lost the baby. That after 3 years of fighting to get pregnant, I had ruined everything because of my psycho sister. Samuel was driving super fast, but trying to avoid potholes. He had me holding his hand and was telling me everything was going to be okay, but I could see in his eyes that he was also scared to death. I got to the ER and they saw me pretty quickly when I explained I was pregnant and had fallen. They did an ultrasound, and I swear, those were the longest 20 minutes of my life, waiting for the tech to say something. Finally, my doctor arrived, checked the ultrasound, and said the baby was fine. The heart was beating strong. There were no signs of placental abruption or anything bad. I was okay too, just some nasty bruises on my hip and back, but nothing broken. He told me I had been very lucky, that a fall like that during pregnancy could have ended very badly. He prescribed rest for a few days and told me that any bleeding, cramping, or anything weird, I should go right back to the hospital. Samuel was relieved, but he was also furious. In the car on the way back, he told me we were going to report Courtney to the police, that what she had done was dangerous and probably illegal. My mom, who had been quiet the whole way, finally said that she and my dad were going to talk to Courtney. Seriously. I just wanted to get home and lie down. Honestly. The next day, my parents went to Courtney's house. I wasn't there, but my mom told me later that they confronted Courtney about locking me in the basement. Courtney first denied it, said I was lying to make her look bad. But my dad told her there were like 5 witnesses who had seen me go down to the basement with her and then her come up alone and close the door. Then Courtney changed her story and said she just wanted to scare me a little, that she didn't think I would be stupid enough to try to get out through the window. My mom told me that at that moment my dad completely lost his patience. They told her they were deeply disappointed, that her actions had endangered their grandchild, and that until she apologized seriously and sought professional help, they weren't going to finance anything for her wedding that they had planned for 6 months from then. Yeah, turns out Courtney and Ethan had gotten engaged like 2 months before, and my parents had promised to pay for the whole wedding and honeymoon. We're talking about like $40,000 or more. Courtney went crazy when they told her that. She yelled at them that I was a manipulator, that everything was a lie, that I was jealous of her because she was getting married. My parents left her house, and Courtney sent them like 50 text messages insulting them and me. I thought that after that things would calm down, that Courtney would realize she had crossed the line. But no, I mean, not at all. A week later, rumors started circulating in the family. My aunt called me asking if it was true that I had faked a pregnancy scare for attention. I was like, what? I asked her who had told her that, and she said Courtney had been telling the whole family that I had exaggerated everything, that I had gone to the hospital for an insignificant little bruise, and made a drama so my parents would cancel Courtney's wedding. I had to send my aunt pictures of my bruises and the hospital bill for her to believe me. Courtney also started posting things on social media. She didn't mention me directly, but it was obvious it was about me. She would post things like, "When your family punishes you for telling the truth," and some people would do anything to be the center of attention. Her friends would comment supporting her, and I felt horrible. Samuel told me to block Courtney on everything, but I don't know why I didn't do it. I guess part of me still had hope that she would come to her senses. 2 weeks later, I was home alone one afternoon. Samuel had gone to the office and I was working from home because my doctor had told me not to do too much physical effort yet. I heard a knock on the door, and when I opened it, it was Courtney. She looked bad, like disheveled and with dark circles under her eyes, and I thought for a second that maybe she was coming to apologize. I asked her what she wanted, and she said she needed to talk to me. I made the mistake of letting her in. As soon as I closed the door, Courtney started walking around my living room, looking at everything with this weird expression. I told her to say what she had to say because I didn't feel comfortable with her there. She saw a framed photo on the mantel. It was one of the ultrasound photos we had printed and put in a nice frame. She grabbed it, looked at it, and before I could react, she threw it on the floor. The frame broke into pieces, and glass scattered everywhere. I was in shock. She looked me straight in the eyes and told me, literally, "I hope you lose that baby, like you lost everything else. I hope you feel the pain you made me feel." I was paralyzed. I couldn't believe my own sister had said that to me. Before I could respond, she left my house, slamming the door. I stood there, looking at the pieces of glass on the floor, the ruined ultrasound photo, and I started crying. I called Samuel, and he dropped everything and came home immediately. When he got Rowden there, and I told him what had happened. He did call the police. We filed a report, showed them the broken frame, told them the whole history with Courtney. The officer said, technically, we could request a restraining order, but that probably a judge wouldn't approve it unless there were direct threats of physical violence. He recommended we document everything and change the locks on the house, which we did that same day. The following weeks were relatively quiet, but not in a good way. It was like that calm before the storm, you know? Courtney didn't try to contact me, but I knew from my parents that things weren't going well for her. My mom told me that Ethan, her fiancé, was having doubts about the relationship because Courtney was obsessed with destroying me and couldn't talk about anything else. My parents had kept their word and hadn't given her a penny for the wedding. Courtney had had to cancel the venue she had reserved because she couldn't pay for it. And then, like a month after the incident at my house, Ethan broke up with Courtney. I don't know exactly what happened, but my mom told me that Ethan had told Courtney that her obsession with me wasn't healthy, that she needed professional help, and that he couldn't be with someone who was so consumed by hatred. Courtney obviously blamed all of this on me too. She sent me a text message, which I saved as evidence, telling me that I had destroyed her life, that I had taken away her fiancé, the wedding money, everything. A few days later, my parents called me hysterical. They had arrived at their house and found that someone had destroyed my old room. I hadn't lived with them for years, obviously, but they had kept my room more or less as it was when I moved out, with some of my childhood and teenage stuff. Someone had broken in, presumably with the key that Courtney still had to my parents' house, had broken all the photos and frames, had scribbled on the walls with permanent marker, had thrown all my old clothes on the floor, and poured bleach on them. My parents checked the security cameras they had installed outside, and there was Courtney, clear as day, entering the house at 3 a.m. My parents changed the locks immediately, and this time they did tell Courtney they didn't want to have contact with her until she sought serious help. They stopped answering her calls, messages, everything. I felt guilty because I felt like I was causing a division in my family, but Samuel reminded me that none of this was my fault, that Courtney had serious problems that had nothing to do with me. The happiest and most terrifying day of my life arrived. At exactly 38 weeks, after a pregnancy that had been mostly normal after the initial scare, my baby was born. A beautiful, perfect boy who weighed 7.5 pounds. Samuel was crying with happiness. I was crying with happiness. My parents came to the hospital and they cried too. We decided to name him Lucas. All the fear, all the stress, everything was worth it. When I held Lucas in my arms, for the first time, we sent a photo to our close family and friends announcing his birth. We didn't send anything to Courtney, obviously. The first days at home with Lucas were amazing but exhausting. You know how it is with a newborn. But like a week after being home, I started receiving text messages from unknown numbers. The first one said something like, "Enjoy it while you can." I would block them and more would come from other numbers. Babies are so fragile. It would be a shame if something happened to him. I knew it was Courtney, but I couldn't prove it. I showed the messages to Samuel, and he said enough was enough, that we were going to the police again. This time, the officer who helped us took things more seriously because there was a baby involved. He helped us apply for a restraining order against Courtney. The judge approved it, and Courtney was prohibited from coming near me, Samuel, Lucas, or our house within 100 meters. We thought that would be enough to make her stop. But Courtney found another way to attack us. My mother-in-law, Samuel's mom, lives in another state, like 6 hours from where we were living. Samuel is an only child and is very close to his mom. One afternoon, my mother-in-law called Samuel super upset. She had received an anonymous letter, printed, with no return address. The letter said I was an incompetent mother, that I let Lucas cry for hours without attending to him, that I drank alcohol while breastfeeding. He haven't had a drop since I got pregnant, that our house was dirty and dangerous for a baby. The letter suggested that my mother-in-law should call social services to investigate. My mother-in-law told us she obviously didn't believe any of that she knew what kind of person I am, but that she was worried about who could have sent her something like that. We told her everything about Courtney and she was horrified. Samuel was fuming. I just felt tired, like exhausted from all of this. I had a newborn baby who demanded all my attention and energy, and instead of enjoying this stage, I was living in constant fear of what Courtney would do next. That night, Samuel and I had a serious conversation. He told me he had been thinking about moving to his home state, where his mom lives. He could transfer to his company's office there, and I could look for remote work or a new job there. The idea broke my heart because it meant leaving my parents, my city, everything I knew. But at the same time, the idea of raising Lucas in an environment where we're constantly looking over our shoulders, waiting for Courtney's next attack, wasn't sustainable either. I told him I would think about it. 2 days later, I made my decision. I was breastfeeding Lucas at 3 a.m, in that strange quiet of dawn, and I realized I couldn't go on like this. I couldn't live with this level of anxiety. It wasn't fair to Lucas, it wasn't fair to Samuel, and it wasn't fair to me. The next day, I told Samuel I agreed to move. We told my parents, and they, although sad that we were leaving, understood completely. My mom even said she had been worried about our safety too. We started making plans. Samuel requested the transfer at work, and it was approved to start in 2 months. I resigned from my job with a month's notice. We started packing the house little by little. During this whole process, Courtney kept sending threatening messages from unknown numbers. We reported each one to the police, but there wasn't much they could do if they didn't catch her in the act. My parents told me that Courtney had violated the restraining order that Ethan had requested against her after she went to his apartment to yell at him in the middle of the night. Courtney had to go to court, and they gave her community service and anger management classes that gave me some satisfaction. I'm not going to lie. Seeing that there were finally consequences for her actions. Moving day arrived. It was bittersweet. Like, exciting because we were going to start a new life, but sad because I was leaving so many things behind. My parents came to say goodbye, and my mom wouldn't stop crying while holding Lucas. We promised them we would come visit often, and that they would always be welcome in our new home. We drove the 6 hours with Lucas, sleeping in his car seat most of the time. And when we finally arrived at our new town, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. It's been like 8 months since we moved. Lucas is 10 months old now and is starting to crawl everywhere. Samuel is happy in his new position. I got a remote job doing virtual event coordination, which allows me to work from home and take care of Lucas at the same time. We live in a quiet neighborhood where people are friendly and no one knows our story with Courtney. My parents have visited us 3 times and we've gone to see them twice. The visits are short, but they mean a lot. My parents tell me that Courtney is still in therapy, although not by her own choice, but because the judge ordered it after the incident with Ethan. They say she sends them messages occasionally asking about me and Lucas, but they don't give her any information about where we live or what we're doing. They maintain a very limited relationship with her, like they answer basic messages, but don't see her in person. My mom says Courtney is living alone now, working a part-time job, and has basically alienated the whole family with her behavior. I'm not going to say I don't feel guilty sometimes. I do feel bad that my parents lost the relationship with one of their daughters, that the family fractured like this. But Samuel reminds me that I didn't cause this, that Courtney's decisions and actions were what destroyed everything. And when I see Lucas smile, when I see him grow up in this peaceful environment where there's no drama or threats, I know we made the right decision. Sometimes I wonder if Courtney will ever realize the damage she caused, if she'll ever genuinely apologize. But honestly, I don't expect that anymore. I've learned to let go of that expectation and focus on my own family, on Lucas and Samuel, on building the life I almost lost because of all this chaos. And that, I guess, will have to be enough.